Just my computer is giving me
Good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers and then start our Upanishad reading. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Tat Savitra Varenyam Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yo Na Prachodayat Asto Ma Sadgamya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya Mrityorma Amritam Gamya Om Sahna Vavtu Sahna Bhanaktu Saviryam Karvavahi Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahi Om Shanti 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 Om. Okay, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. First Kand is Madhu Kand. And we looked at the section 1 that was Ashwamedh Brahman. And we are going to finish the second Brahman, which is called Agni Brahman. Okay.
Namaste.
So let's look at the verse number 6 of this Agni Brahman. And as you know that these verses are not in poetry form, they are the prose. So prose, it's just recited the way it is written without any rhythm to it. So let's look at verse number 6. Sa akamyat bhuyasaha yagyen bhuyaha yajeye iti sa ashramyat satapaha atapyat shrantasya taptasya tasya yasha viryam udkramat pranaha vekrama viryam praneshu utkranteshu tat shariram shvavitum adhinyat tasya mana sharire ev asit. So literal translation of this verse is that he desired, let me again perform sacrifice, the yajna, with a great sacrifice. So that means with a lot of effort. Let me do that yajna. Then what happened? He became tired. He was afflicted by distress. Then the glory and vigor of the tired and distressed departed. And what he's talking about over here, the death. The vital breaths are verily glory and vigor of the body. So after the departure of the prans out of the body began to swell. But his mind indeed was set on the body. We saw in the previous mantra, the explanation was about the projection of this universe, starting with the Vedas, ending with the animals. That means from the knowledge all the way down to ignorance. And this and the next mantra, again they are interpreting that sacrificial horse, which is called Ashwamedh Yajna. So in all these terms over here, he is taking our mind to that yajna again. We can see that scheme of the creation has been perfectly set in motion starting from the knowledge. And death, who has been attempting hard to put everything in order, has become eminent in the entire creation. Okay, we talked about it, that anything which is created, ultimately, it has to die. There's the end of it. If there's a birth, there's a death also. So the term death remains a very important part of this section. But he is much more than death. He is also the life expressed. So he over here means God. That's why we say that God is Brahma also, the creator. God is Vishnu also. God is Mahesh also. Not just the death alone. He is now the creator, Prajapati, concealed. In the womb known as Hiranyagarbha. And he has become the cause of all the subsequent creation. So it's just like from a seed, the tree is born. From the egg, the bird comes out. So it's in the womb. And the womb of this entire creation is called Hiranyagarbha, the golden egg. And the process of creation is in a far advanced stage at this point. Knowledge has become manifest, has given a definite shape to the course of action. This is the scheme of creation. And a human being is born with a special power, power to think. That's why he said, Tasya sharir eva man asit. As human beings, we can contemplate on higher matters, which are far beyond the reach of other beings. So in him springs up the desire to know the reality beyond, or even you can say behind this gross universe. And there's also aspiration to soar high into the philosophical knowledge. That's why we think about where did we come from? Where were we before we took birth? And also we wonder where will we go after we leave this body? These are called reaching into the areas with the help of this mind, philosophically. So this knowledge is inherent in him, in God, because it just follows God throughout, right from the dawn of creation. So this mantra and the next mantra really presents this quest of a human being in terms of sacrificial horse and horse sacrifice respectively. Okay? Because we saw that how the superimposition on this universe as a horse. So that's also thinking, philosophical thinking. So the horse as a rule, even when in the Ashwamedh Yajna, horse is assigned to the gods and the divinities. It's sanctified. Performer of the sacrifice purifies the horse There are some special rituals mentioned in the Vedas for that. And then they let it free for a year. In the same way, the individual meditator, when makes a resolve to make a great sacrifice, yajna, he has to purify his entire being. The senses, mind, the gross nature. There are certain rules about it. Even the simple yajna we do, we make sure that place is clean. The kund is clean. The water is clean. Our hands have been washed. We sit properly. So the purification is very much part of the yajna. Purification of our own nature constitutes the first item in this sacrifice, actually. Because without purification, we are unfit to be dedicated for higher purposes. So that's why in our scriptures they say, if you invite somebody in your own home also to do the yajna, make sure that person doesn't have any ulterior motive. Sure, we are supposed to give the dakshina, but if a person who is performing the yajna only because he's or she's getting some money, that is not purification. So we are supposed to give, but in his mind should be only God, not the business. The task is not a small one, actually, because it definitely takes great effort. There's a continuous struggle. This world keeps on taking us towards Maya. But our mind has to stay pure. Only then that is a sacrifice. And in this verse, he says he becomes tired because there's an effort put into it. Sure, that person who is sacrificing is liable to get tired and distressed in this process. His organs may not be strong enough to cooperate with him in this great attempt. But in course of time, the entire bundle of impurities which has shaped his nature may depart. So that is the tapasya. So with the help of the tapasya, the tiredness goes away too. Then this meditator will become fit for higher meditation. And this is what this mantra is talking about. Higher meditations. So this sacrificial horse denotes the individual soul or the jiva who has cast away the impurities of his being and has gotten himself prepared for the higher meditations. So without purifications, sure, we take care of the body when we do the yajna, but purifications of the mind and the intellect and the ego, those are the higher level of purifications. He has to reject the names and the forms and realize his identity with the Supreme Being who transcends all. So if we are doing yajna, remembering that I'm a male or a female, or I am this or that, there's no purification. You got to remember that I am the Atma at that time. whom the death does not know. Death knows only the body. Death doesn't know the Atma. Who rules death from within? The Brahman. So when we go deep into the mantra, we really find that it deals with the sum of the points. Number one point is that he desired to perform a greater sacrifice. Not just an ordinary sacrifice, but a greater sacrifice. Number two, he performed the sacrifice and became tired. And number three, his reputation and strength departed on account of the hard sacrifice he performed. So reputation, what others are thinking, who I am, it departs with that higher meditations. Number four, after the departure of organs, his body swelled. Number five, his mind did not leave the body. So you can say that individual soul attempts at sacrificing his entire animal nature. And really plunges into the task of purifying himself and becomes tired. We all know that to shed off the animal nature is not an easy affair. Because animal nature, we got to rise above to the human nature. From the human nature, we got to rise above into the divine nature. So animal nature. What do animals do? Four things. Ahar, nidra, bhav, methun. That's animal nature. Ahar means eating. Nidra means sleeping. Bhav means fear, especially the fear of death. Try to catch a little ant. Likes to run away. Bhav, methun, procreation. As human beings, if that's all we are doing, we are still under the grip of the animal nature. We got to rise above that. As human beings, what do? We contemplate on the meaning of life. We want to know where we came from, where will we go? How can we help others? What can we do to feel the oneness so that we move into the higher realms? Divine nature is where even at the cost of your own comfort or your own wealth, you help others. That's called a divine nature. So we got to rise up to that. So that's why in these mantras they say that he became tired. Because to shed off the animal nature is not an easy affair. Because we have to lose our own individuality. And also secular relationships. Me and mine. The individual jiva finds, which is very natural, that his entire being is undergoing an overhauling process. And this is the intermediate state in our progress to the Supreme. That's why the sadhak is very careful. Because the sadhak is intently watching the overhauling that is taking place in his being. What is really happening? I'm not what I used to be, but I'm not there where I would like to be. It takes a lot of effort. And in the next mantra, we see the projection of purity and success in attempting at this sacrifice. So this is the last mantra of this section. Sa akamyat me idam medhyam sayat anen atmanvi sayam iti yat ashvat tat ashvaha sambhavat tat medhyam abhut iti tat ev ashmedhyase ashmedhatvam ya enam evam ved esha ve ashmedham ved tam अनुरुध्ये एव अमन्यत संवत्सरे प्रस्तात् तम आत्मने अलभत पशून देवताभ्य प्रत्यहयात् तस्मात् सर्व देवत्यम प्रोक्षितम प्रजापत्यम अलंभते य एषः तपति एषा हवे अश्वमेधा संवत्सरः तस्य आत्मा अयम अग्नि अर्कः तस्य इमे लोकाः आत्मना तो एतौ प्रकाशमदेव पुनः उ सा एकः एव देवता मृत्यु एव भवति पुनः मृत्युम अपजयति मृत्युः एनं न आपनोति मृत्यु अस्य आत्मा एतासां देवतानाम एकः भवति. Maybe you should challenge yourself to memorize this one, huh? Pretty long. He desired. What did he desire? May this, that means the soul and body of mine, become fit for sacrifice. Because only through the body we can do the tapasya or we can meditate. We need the body. So may this soul and body of mine become fit for sacrifice. May I become embodied through it because it swelled. Therefore, it became known as a horse that became fit for sacrifice. Thus, that indeed is the origin of Ashwamedh sacrifice. He who knows him thus verily knows the Ashwamedh. Letting it the horse remain free, he reflected upon it. After a year, he sacrificed it for himself and also assigned the other animals of the gods. Therefore, they all, those who perform sacrifices, sacrifice to Prajapati, the sanctified, which is dedicated to all the gods. That which gives forth heat, that means the sun, that indeed is Ashwamedh. The year is his, that means the sun's body. This earthly fire is ark. That's like a universal fire. These worlds are his self body. These two, fire and the sun, are ark and Ashwamedh. Again, both of them are indeed the same God, death. He who knows this conquers further death. death obtains him not. Death becomes his self. He becomes one with these gods. So again, the idea of oneness. So he, over here, he means the Hiranyagarbha. Desire to purify his being as to make it fit for the great sacrifice, which has been explained in the previous mantra. So he thought of embodying through his purified being. And we saw that body had undergone swelling. So it is known as Ashva, the swollen body. And in spirituality, it refers to the nature of the individual, which is the vehicle of the individual activity. And because it became fit for a sacrifice, so horse sacrifice came to be known as Ashwamedh. So which includes the process of purifying our instinctive animalistic nature, making it fit to pray to God for higher attainments. So this verse says, he who knows it indeed knows the horse sacrifice. And it further says, let one imagine himself as the horse and remain free for a year, and then sacrifice it to himself. And dispatch the other animals to God. What does it really mean? This mantra is expressing through these lines that we have to do sadhana for a long time. Sometimes we just do sadhana for a few minutes and we think that we should get the result. A year really means a long time. There was one Upanishad which we did where young Rishi Kumars, they went to the Guru. They said, we have some questions. And that Upanishad is called Prashna Upanishad. What did the Rishi say? He said, for a year, stay at the ashram with me. Do some tapasya. Do whatever I tell you to do. After a year, we'll sit down. You can ask the questions. And he said, if I have the answers, I'll give it to you. He did not say, I have all the answers. He said, if I have the answers, I will definitely give those to you. So the same thing over here. These days, we just want the results right away. Something like this sadhana has to be done for a long time. We have to purify ourselves. It's not just a purification of the body. It's really purification of our inner instruments. Antakaran. So this mantra expresses through these lines that one should perform the sacrifice to himself, rather than for others whom he wants to conquer. So we got to conquer our own mind. We got to conquer our own ego. We got to purify ourselves. And it definitely takes time. This body does get tired. In the initial stages, especially when we are still identifying with the body does get tired. But with the help of the sadhana, when we know how to detach from this body, more and more you know that you are not the body, the less tired it will be. Then he says, horse sacrifice is the sun that shines, gives light to all. What does sun do? Does it take a day off? Keeps on shining. That's what we learn from the nature. Everything in the nature is sacrificing. The year is his body. That is to say that his body corresponds to the time factor. And what is that for which it is called ark and used by the sacrificer? The ark is the fire element which is all pervading. That's ark. Because its limbs are these three worlds. So fire and sun are ark and Ashwamedh. This is what he's saying in this mantra. And these two are again identical with the death. So fire denotes the sacrifice and sun stands for the result of sacrifice. But these two are the same God, death. And this death is the same deity which we have been learning from the very first mantra. Because this death has enveloped everything that existed, which divided itself three ways. We learned that in the previous mantras. So one who knows through meditation what has been said just now about death, he says will ward off death. And if we can ward off death, we are warding off the rebirth also. That means we are having the experience of who we are through the meditation. He says he is not born again. Death has no chance to operate over him. He himself becomes identical with the death, God. Becomes one with these deities through these meditations. He becomes the self of all. Self of all, that's like a oneness. So this is the end of this section. And the next section, section 3 is called Udgit Brahman. And Udgit Brahman has several verses, in fact about 28 verses. And in this section, we'll see the meditation on the Udgit as Prana. So contemplation on the cosmic Prana through the individual Prana, what will happen? There will be a restraint in the senses and the mind. And we'll see that it starts out with a story about the two forces. And these forces we are familiar with, divine and the demonical. Those are the offsprings of the Prajapati, the gods and the demons, or Dev and Asura. They continue to rival with each other till the gods decided to defeat the demons through the aid of a Udgit in a sacrifice. That's what we'll see. So these are like a twin forces which really resides in us also. Sum total of sense organs which by virtue of good actions are called gods. And by virtue of vicious actions, they are called demons. So this rivalry is called Dev Asur Sangram. It's going on inside us. So this warfare is continuing even to this day. Sometimes divinity reigns supreme in the individual or in the society also. Because society is what? Society is a sum total of all the individuals. That's what society is. Society is no different than us. And the other times, the demonical nature dominates and rules till it is ousted by divinity. So sacrifice and Udgit chanting here stands for the holy and sattvic qualities and the actions of the senses. And the sacrifice over here really means the destruction of the lower nature and making our human personality sanctified. So Udgit means meditation on holiness. So gods thought of purifying themselves so that the evil forces might become extinct. They asked the organ of speech, nose, eye, ear, mind, and the rest to sing Udgit. All of them obeyed. The demons got frightened because they thought that the gods will defeat them. So they pierced all the senses with evil. And the dark forces did not allow the sattva to express and predominate in the individual and the society with the result of all the organs. And the mind got contaminated by vicious and undivine traits. So none of them could effect a proper sanctification. And that's how the evil transcended. In the end, Pran chanted the Udgit. And as a consequence of that, the demons were blown out in all directions and they perished. The envious relatives in the form of attachment to sense objects, which stood in the way of cosmic identification with the vital force, got defeated. And the vital force is known as Dur. And these are the terms we'll see in this section. Dur because death remains far away from it. So Pran took away the sins of the gods and deposited them at the end of the quarters. The evil cannot go everywhere Because the mind which has been made pure is free from this evil, but still not completely immune. But after subjugating the sense impulses, we need to transcend them. Because transcending the evil really means that we should disidentify ourselves from sense organs and identify with the prana. All the senses were restored their original nature by the prana. Because if the prana is the one which is really gives the energy to all the senses. When the speech was freed from death, it became the fire. The same way nose became the air. The eye, the sun, the ears, the quarters, the mind, the moon, they were all freed from individuality. They became universal. We'll see that in this particular section. Essence of all the limbs also. The greatness of the glory of the limbs. And then he talks about the psalm also. The wealth of psalm. See, there's a psalm Ved. So psalm like a sweet tone, correct articulation, psalm. He will tell us that that's a wealth. That's a wealth in order to perform the rituals. But you cannot even sing without the prana. So that's why this udgit over here, there's so much importance given to the prana in this udgit section. And a person who removes the evil tendencies, does not do the prohibitable actions, is the only one who can do the rituals the right way. Otherwise, you are prohibited to do those actions. So these are some of the things we will be talking about in this big section. So there are quite a few mantras in there, but most of this terminology you are familiar with through other scriptures. So do not, and some of the mantras are very short also. So, yeah, most of the mantras are very short in this particular section. So let's stop it here, and then we'll start with this Udgit Brahman next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Visheshyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.